Hey, all my fantasy football friends, welcome to the Multiple First Dynasty Football channel here on YouTube. Today we'll be chopping up the remainder of the incoming 2023 rookie running backs. I am here as always with my partner Greg, the Velociraptor. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing amazing. Let's finish out the back half of this outstanding running back class.
Yeah, man, let's get into it. We did the top half in our previous video, the top dozen or so guys, and now we're going to be talking about some of the day three prospects, the UFAs, the sleepers, if you will. Maybe one or two of these guys might rise up the ranks, when capital is all fleshed out. But yeah. Today we're going to be talking about. Let's start off with Mr. Chase Brown, the running back from Illinois. Came in the combine as a 5'9", 209 pounds. He ran a 4.43 40. He is a redshirt senior, a fifth-year senior. What's up with Chase Brown?
Yeah, so redshirt senior, fifth-year senior from Illinois. Canadian-born, started at Western Michigan, so maybe that's part of why it took him some time to get started. We see this sometimes. Canadian-born players don't get recruited. They start at smaller schools and have to transfer up. So that's a possibility, because we don't love when running backs stay 5 years in college.
No.
That tends to not be a great indicator. A bit of a red flag. The speed score of 108.5 was really good.
Yeah, it jumps out at you.
Yeah, and he had an enormous 2022, right? So 2022, we talked about Dwayne McBride was the NCAA's leading rusher. Chase Brown was the leading rusher from Power 5 conferences. He had 328 carries in 12 games. That's 27 and a third a game. He also had 27 receptions for a total of 1,883 scrimmage yards. Right.
Dang,
So is that
a
sign of workload and durability, or is this a guy who was impressive because of silly volume on a mediocre team? Right. So that's and also, is he an older running back who's sort of used up? Those are the questions, right? Was that a breakout, or was that like the peak of everything? 734 college touches is a lot. He had a great combine. His overall athleticism was really there. The Senior Bowl was a mixed bag for him. He looked good with the ball in his hands, but man, he got embarrassed in pass protection. Clips of him getting beat were on all over YouTube as draft fodder for the defenders he was up against.
Yeah, he's getting crushed by linebackers and stuff.
Yeah, that was not good. Let's see. If you go to Mock Draftable and you look at his athletic comps, his number one comp is Breece Hall and his number two comp is Bijan Robinson. So now,
pretty good. Yeah.
Right now, and the other 8 guys are not anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He's an explosive home run hitting skill set. He got bell cow usage in college. He has good burst. He is elusive at the second level. He does not go down. He does not get caught by defensive backs a lot. He doesn't seem to like to run inside. He bounces things he shouldn't. He doesn't get hard yards. He is not an obvious third down back or an obvious goal line back. Third down back because he doesn't pass pro well, and he's not an obvious goal line back because he doesn't get that hard final yard. So that's kind of a troubling thing. If you ended up in a running back by committee and you're not getting targets and you're not the guy who's automatically on the field at the 1 yard line, that can be a problem for fantasy, even if he's a contributor. My ceiling comp for Chase Brown is Doug Martin, and my median comp is Ronald Jones or Raheem Mostert.
He had that kind of speed to compete with Mostert. I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not quite, but
I think Ronald Jones is a fair comp. He probably handles more volume than Rojo did, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a fair comp. Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what he handles in the pros. Ron Jones handled a lot of volume in college. But the lack of passing game work is really where some of those comps come in. So, yeah, I think Chase Brown has a chance to be a riser. Um, Somebody could think they see a cheap bell cow and take him in the third round to a good landing spot, and he could be one that moves up. We'll see. Um, I like him in the third round if he of your rookie draft, if he goes in the fourth round of the NFL draft, which is kind of where I think he'll go.
Yeah, and on the name scale, I think I'd give him like a 7 out of 10 or something. Chase Brown sounds like an NFL running back to me. Sounds like a fantasy relevant one.
There you go. Chase, but don't catch.
We got an even better name for you coming at you with Mighty Mouse, Mr. Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State. So this 5'6" is actually not correct. He's actually smaller than that at 5'5", according to his pro day. He's stands 5'5", is 179 pounds. Deuce Vaughn, probably be one of the smallest professional football players, smallest professional athletes of any kind I've ever seen once he gets into the NFL. So looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, he is a little guy, man. So he is a unicorn. There is no really, really close comp for a guy of his size with his college workload profile from a Power 5 school, right? So you'll get some weird, freaky things coming from Division II, right? Or you'll get guys who have a lot of these things, but they're 5'8", which is like a short normal people height. But at 5'5", or you'll get guys who are 5'5" and they only work as scat backs, right? But this is a guy who is 5'5" and had 293 carries in the Big 12 in 2022, single season, right? 767 touches over the last 3 seasons. So this is a guy who was an absolute workhorse, right? He's got 116 career catches in 3 seasons. He's got 43 touchdowns in 3 seasons.
43 touchdowns in 3 years for
right.
this undersized tailback. That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Analytical models that do not consider his size and do not project draft capital think that he's a fringe first rounder.
Just based on his production profile and his athletic profile.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's no, well, no, there's no athletic. Those are going to have to be models that are production.
So just production based is what you're saying.
Because nobody, if you're putting in athletic testing, you're putting
put the size stuff in.
You're putting the size stuff, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So if you're not looking at all at the physical qualities, you're just looking at the production profile. This guy, between the rushing work and the receiving work and the quality, and the early breakout age and the quality of school, right? This is a guy who's playing in the Big 12 championship game, right? This is not the MAC. So his size is going to definitely impact his draft capital. It's very hard for me to imagine him as a day 2 player. If somebody believed in him enough to make him a day 2 player, I would rise very hard on him.
Yeah.
He gets completely lost behind his offensive line. He's really effective between the tackles. When these big guys get their hands on him, he goes down quickly, right? Yeah. When a defensive tackle gets a really good handful of jersey, he's not pulling away from that. That's just the end of the run, right? But he's so low to the ground. His shoulder pad level gets so low that it's very hard for these guys to work off their blocks, get good hands on him, and get a hold of him. He's slippery. He's got these little half jukes. He does not dance nearly as much as you'd think for a guy his size. He makes a cut. He gets downhill. He flashes plus hands, like makes some really bad throw catches. Of course, his catch radius is terrible. Right?
Yeah, like, you got to put it on him. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He needs the good hands because reasonable throws are going to look like they're at the edge of his catch radius, right? He is not a guy who has split out wide. You don't see that from him. which is like a shame because if he's going to end up with the scat back tag, you're going to need that skill set.
Is he return kicks? Is that in his profile? Did he do that in school?
He did not,
Yeah.
but he has been returning kicks in the in the pro day process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So he
Evaluation
took
process.
punts.
Yeah.
Specifically, he took punts during his pro day,
Mm-hmm.
and said, he wants to add that to his game. Right. So I just and then the final thing is he is simply too small to ever be left in man blocking in a pass protection
Yeah.
situation.
He's not
Right.
picking up a defensive end by
No,
himself.
no,
Yeah.
right. So if he's in the backfield, he has to go out for a route.
Yeah.
Which on the one hand is good, like you want him out for a route, not pass blocking. But can he get the entire satellite back role for a team if you can't ever trust him to block a front seven defender?
Yeah, it makes your offense a little kind of loses a dimension when
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the median outcome for me here is something like Dion Lewis or Darren Sproles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really little guys. Both of those guys are even a little bigger than this, by the way.
Yeah. See, Dion Lewis was like 5'7", wasn't he? 5'8".
Yeah, really little guys
Yeah.
who were only really passing game work guys, right?
Yep.
And then I think the ceiling is something more like Gio Bernard, where he's maybe a scat back who has 200 carries. That's hard for me to see.
It's hard though because his ceiling might actually be something we've like never seen before, like in a good way. I mean, it could be. He's just such a unique prospect. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be taking some shots on this guy. I mean, the upside's definitely there. It's just who
draft
knows.
capital is very important.
Sure, certainly.
Because here's the other thing, like one of the reasons I love to be a draft capital guy is because there's certain kinds of things that it's hard to know how to count, and draft capital is a way to count them, and then you don't have to double count them.
Yeah.
And I think his size is a big thing there. Like I'm actually not going to knock him down for his size
because it'll be baked into his NFL draft.
It's baked in, right?
Yeah.
Like this is kind of what we're saying is this is a second round prospect, if not for the size. So when you treat him like he got 5th round draft capital, you're already counting the size.
Yeah, so, that makes sense. That's interesting.
Follow the draft capital. If he gets better than draft capital than you think, that is the league telling you maybe he's got that unicorn ceiling.
Yeah, just want to keep an eye out for him. I bet you, maybe not through the lifetime of his career, but sporadically he's going to be fantasy relevant. He just is going to break big plays and catch passes. So wherever he ends up, he's going to be at least sporadically relevant. Like I said, the next guy up for us here in the tier 5 of running backs is Mr. Evan Hull from Northwestern. I don't have a lot of info on these dudes in this lower half, but this guy is getting a lot of esteem in the community. Evan Hull is someone I'm liking. Powerful runner. What's up with Evan Hull?
So, okay, Evan Hull, 5'10", 209, 447, 40, redshirt junior out of Northwestern, speed score of 104.7. This is a guy who let me take the listeners on a little bit of a narrative journey here. This is a guy who was looking like a depth prospect, a UDFA, a camp body, a bigger satellite back who had maybe a passing game role. And then he had a really good Senior Bowl, and then he followed that up with a really good combine, and he got very buzzy. And I was very excited to watch his tape, and then I didn't like it. So here are the major pluses. Right, 88 catches in his last 2 years, including 55 this year.
Love that. That's really high.
Love that, yeah. Right? And he he looked great in pass pro during Senior Bowl week against these future NFL guys. And those two things will get him into this league and keep him in this league. And sometimes you see the long speed, that 4.47 long speed on tape. Okay. Now here's what I don't like. He does not change directions well. he does not accelerate quickly when he does change direction, right? So like if he has to cut, he gets real tiptoey. And he does not like contact as a ball carrier.
Mm.
He hits hard in pass protection. He will square up a guy, but he shies from contact in ways that I did not like at all.
Yeah.
Um, so my comp for him, my ceiling comp for him, there are things about him that remind me of Matt Forte,
Ooh, that's good
which
praise.
is
Yeah.
right. But what I really see from him, my median comp is Rex Burkhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You can definitely see that. Yep.
yeah. And so like a bigger satellite back kind of guy. Like a guy who is a satellite back, but he's also not explosive. He's not going to have 4 weeks where he has a long house call. This is not Tariq Cohen. This is like, oh, we like him in there because he picks up the blitzer and he's got reliable dump off hands, right? Which there's a role for that, right? But and if you can get him in the 4th round, I like him. But I was just a little disappointed with the tape. He goes down too easily, he does not finish forward. He does not get the short yardage yards. It just didn't look like a 3-down skill set to me.
All right. Yeah. He's someone I like out of this tier just because of all that productivity in college we talked about. I like those comps for him. That's Evan Hull. Next guy up that we're going to talk about is Mr. Eric Gray.
Yeah, Eric Gray, 5'9.5", 207, 4.62 at his pro day. That is not great.
That's pretty
Senior
slow.
from Oklahoma. He is a Tennessee transfer. This is a senior year breakout candidate. He's a classic slow in testing, but looks fast enough in pads kind of guy. Does not get to the edge real well. He's a better runner inside. This is an RBBC guy, a running back by committee guy, or more likely a quality handcuff. But he is a guy who's going to do very well in a zone scheme. And so I could see him getting that Alexander Madison treatment of being drafted behind someone you like. And then, hey, go take him in the 4th round of your rookie draft, especially if you're the owner of that lead back. And maybe you get several years of he's a quality start whenever the lead back misses a week.
Yeah.
That's who I think. So I think the ceiling here is Damian Harris in terms of being like the front half of a running back by committee is kind of the ceiling for this player. But I mean, Damian Harris is a very useful player.
Yeah.
And I think the median outcome is something like Jerome Ford with your Cleveland Browns, where
guy who's never on the field.
well,
just kidding.
he's the injury away guy year 2, right?
Yeah.
That's
You'll
what
see
we're
some
looking
Jerome
at.
Ford this year. He'll be on the field this year. Yeah.
And Eric Gray runs like Jerome Ford. That I thought was a accurate comp for him.
Sure.
So that's our tier there. Those 4 guys. Of those 4, the one that really impressed me, well, the ones that impressed me a lot were Vaughn and Brown. Hull I was hoping to see more of. Gray was very solid. Tier 6. Okay, these guys are much more to the dart throw side. Probably these are only for your 5 and 6 round drafts.
These are probably UFAs, pretty much all these guys, yeah. I mean,
unless they get surprising draft capital.
Yeah, but like none of them are going to go ahead of like the 5th. I mean, really.
You wouldn't think so.
Who knows?
You wouldn't think so, right? But like this is also the other thing is I want everybody to hear these names because sometimes a guy who we like as like a deeper dart gets draft capital we didn't expect, and then there's an opportunity if you've prepared instead of being like I don't know who that is. It's that's Keaton Mitchell. I remember we went over him for 3 minutes at least, right? And
Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, that's the living proof. We talked about him a lot last year, and I have a lot of him, and hope you do too.
I reasonable amount, yes, absolutely. Okay, so tier 6, Chris Rodriguez. Okay, so Chris Rodriguez, 6 foot, 217 pound, 4'5", 240 unofficial at his pro day. That's real fast for that size. redshirt senior out of Kentucky. We don't love redshirt seniors. Productive 3-year SEC starter. We do like that.
Oh yeah.
Slightly down year as a senior. Had a better junior year. Probably made a mistake not going pro last year in a weaker class. Which maybe your profit out there, listener, right? Absolutely no receiving profile. So I think the ceiling comp here is Brian Robinson, right? And then maybe if you get a Brian Robinson ceiling, maybe you fall into a situation where he scores 15 touchdowns and he's running back one season, right? By being the short, the short half of a running back by committee. I think that's your ceiling there. And your median outcome is something like Caleb Huntley, where he's the big bruising third, running back 3 on the team.
Never gets enough volume to be relevant, and maybe he could fall in the end zone. Yeah.
Maybe an injury week, something like
Sure.
that. That I think is the median outcome. But I do think the ceiling outcome there is that he could be the power guy, like especially if you had a lead, like if you had Jahmyr Gibbs, but you wanted somebody to take 40% of just the bruising carries.
Yeah.
Right? Like then you could have a guy here who could do that really nicely, and maybe he falls into the end zone 7-8 times in a year. Right? So that's Chris Rodriguez. Next guy, Keaton Mitchell. 5'8", 179, ran a 4.37 40. He's a junior out of East Carolina. Speed score of 98.2, so that's like shows you how small he is. His speed score is under 100 despite running a 4.37.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Yep.
That's like he's not that fast for a guy that little.
He weighs the same as Deuce, and he's 3 inches taller, which is
Right.
still small. Yeah.
Right, and he looks frail on the field.
Don't like hearing that. Yeah.
As a junior, yeah, 201 carries, 1452 rushing yards, 7.2 per carry, 14 touchdowns. Very fast, very shifty, very tiny. That's who he is. Like you like some of the tape, but he does not break arm tackles, right? So another guy. I feel like the ceiling here is Sproles or Mostert, and the median outcome is something more like Jacquizz Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But again, all these guys have a ceiling where they're useful. I think that's like the bottom tier we want to touch on. Next guy, Tyon Evans, 5'9.5", 225, 450, 4.52 40. Right, so same 4.52 40 as Chris Rodriguez, but he ran it at the combine and he's 8 pounds bigger. Right, so we like all of that. Senior from Louisville. Was a JUCO guy, went to Tennessee for 1 year and then transferred to Louisville. So kind of a roundabout process to get there. Speed score of 107.8. He clearly has explosion and burst. He has he had the best speed. No, he did not have the best. One of the best speed scores in the class. Extremely limited production profile, has never had 90 attempts in a season. Kind of stiff, not very shifty, but when you have his size and burst, there can be a role for you in the league.
Yeah.
I think the ceiling is like CJ Anderson, who had a place in this league for a while.
Yeah. He helped people win titles. He had some big games in the playoffs in like 2020 and 21. Yeah.
Very
Mo Ibrahim is our next guy up here. Yeah.
Mo Ibrahim from Minnesota. 5'8", 203. 4.5 440 hand timed unofficial at his pro day. This is a senior from Minnesota. Straight ahead, hard runner, absolutely no wiggle. He gets everything that's blocked and nothing else. Legitimate 5-year starter in a Power 5 program. Missed an entire season with an ACL. Missed half of another season with a hamstring. Has an extensive injury history and is almost 25 years old because of the injury history.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, it was his junior year, his 4th year that he tore the ACL. So like he probably would have come out a year ago if he hadn't torn the ACL. Right. So That's
Now, what's
part of
good
what
about
he
him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so and in 5 years as a real full-time starter, he has 22 total career catches. So it's not any of that. This is a great short yardage back, and this is a guy who, even though he's a little, he runs between the tackles really hard and really well, and he converts short yardage at a very high rate. Um, the ceiling is Rojo, right? So somebody could draft him and he could end up being the absolutely no passing game work lead back.
Yeah.
Um,
For like a
I
season
mean,
or two, it sounds like. Yeah, he just seems the damage there seems to be already be piling up with the age. This is a scary player,
yep.
but he's going to
But
be basically free. So
all of these guys, right? If a team falls in love with the pluses, the
yeah,
pros, eh, and thinks they outweigh the cons and gives them fourth round draft capital, you know what you're getting in for,
yep.
right? You know who was a guy who had some red flags and got surprising draft capital 2 years ago is Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh yeah, yep,
He had some huge red flags for me, got surprising draft capital, and I wish I had bought in more.
yep. No Sam.
So
Yep.
that's why I look at these guys as hard as I do. Next guy, Deneric Prince. Deneric Prince, 6 foot tall, 216, ran a 4.41. Redshirt senior, another fifth-year senior from Tulsa. This is a Texas A&M transfer with a speed score of 114.2. That's the best speed score in the class. This is a guy who, at a low level of competition, was always a rotational back.
Okay.
So that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um,
So he's athletic, but not the most talented, is what you're telling me.
he runs tough. He runs
Yeah.
hard. He likes contact. But something about the failure to lead a mediocre backfield in a non-Power 5 conference on a losing team should scare all of us. The top 3 speed scores in this class are number 3 Bijan Robinson, number 2 Jahmyr Gibbs, number 1 Deneric Prince. So let's not. So if somebody likes him enough to give him a shot, you give him a shot too.
It seems like one of those guys that the Niners kept taking a shot on over the last couple of years, like dudes who like measurables and speed score and all that and size, but just not the most talented players. And then that's what we've gotten is nothing from them.
Yes, this is a guy who sees a hole and just goes. I think the ceiling is Ryan Matthews, if you remember the old Charger back.
Oh, yeah.
He reminds me of him a lot, and measures very similarly. And the median outcome is he never plays in the league, right? I really think
Yeah.
there's a very low possibility here, but the boom is very high. So his name needs to be out there in case somebody gives him a shot. And the last guy on this list is Kenny McIntosh, who some people who I respect really like.
Yeah.
This is the senior running back from Georgia, 6 feet 204, ran a 4.62 at the 40 for an undersized receiving back. That's terrible. His speed score of 89.6, a speed score under 90 is atrocious. He spent and he doesn't have a good production profile. So
what's the love about him? He makes
okay,
people miss.
So
yeah.
It's tape and narrative,
Okay.
right? So playing behind James Cook and Zamir White, his career high in touches was 80 before his senior year, and then he led the backfield as a senior. He had 43 catches. That's the best part of his profile, right? Even as the starting back, he was splitting time but getting all the receiving work.
Yeah.
Right. So splitting time with a Thunder guy, right? Was not super effective or efficient as a runner, even on a loaded national championship team. He doesn't really make guys miss. He is very good in pass pro. I kind of think he falls in the NFL draft to round 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But I do think the ceiling is Rachaad White. Somebody likes him, sees a passing downs plus kind of role. But I see so much Kyren Williams in him. And remember, Kyren Williams was a 3rd-round prospect on a lot of people's boards until he was a 5th-round pick. That's who I see is a lot of that. And then that's the end of tier 6.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of. I'm with you. I've heard a lot of different analysts, people I respect, be high on Kenny McIntosh. I've seen him up there in that tier 4, like with these guys, the A Chains and the
Yes.
Zach Evans. I've seen him up there in other people's breakdowns. So you were not impressed by the film at all. It sounds like.
I mean, no, I didn't see anything interesting.
Yeah, I think
I
he
just
will
didn't
get
see anything
drafted
interesting.
too. It's
For sure.
just because teams are always more willing to take a shot on like the winning program guys. Like, oh, he won a national championship in college, so that automatically gives him just being part of that program, being part of all that culture. Teams value that when they go to draft players. That's like part of the equation for them. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And then we see down here at the bottom, tier 7, Lou Nichols.
one
Right.
guy down here, Lou
So
Nichols, to talk
here's
about.
what I have in my notes. Here's what I have in the notes on our show sheet. 5'10", 220 pounds from Central Michigan. Did not get a combine invite, so I didn't scout him. But I've heard his name pop up a bunch of times, so I want to scout him. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I wrote here. Okay. Well, I spent an hour with him yesterday.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You like something? Yeah.
So I like Lou Nichols. So 5'10", 220, slow. This is a slow running back. 4.7s. Okay? Big, slow running back. 1,800 rushing yards as a junior 2 years ago.
Yeah, that jumped right out at me. That's insane. That's a
Right?
lot of yardage.
Led the nation in yards.
Plus another 300 receiving yards. I mean, 2,000 all-purpose is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just looks it on tape.
Okay.
So if somebody, I liked the tape, I liked the production. You don't like that speed, but sometimes big, slow running backs are good. And he's got some receiving chops, right? So he didn't get a combine invite, which is shocking to me for a guy who went to a Division I school and led the NCAA in rushing as a junior, right? That's really surprising.
He's got prototypical size. I mean, 5'11", 220, that's good weight. Like that's good size. I mean, he's bigger than like Ken Walker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I could see Lou Nichols being a 4th-round draft pick over a bunch of guys that we dealt with today. I could see him going near the top of the guys that we drafted today. I'm not saying he will. I'm saying I could see it.
Yep.
And if he does that, I'm going to.
You're in.
Be in.
Yeah.
If it's a landing spot where he's got any kind of path to the field.
Yeah.
Right. All these guys from today, landing spot matters more than it usually does. Right. We with the guys we did on the first episode, talent wins out. Those are like the better guys, and you figure talent wins out. These late guys, they need to show something quickly, or they will get washed out of this league.
Yeah.
And
practice
so,
squad and then done. Yep.
Yes. And so if they go somewhere where they're like, you can just see the only thing they're ever going to do is cover kicks, like that's not good. Whereas if we get that Tyler Algier landing spot where we say, oh, you mean the only guy they've got to beat out is the 31-year-old wide receiver convert?
Yeah.
Then we're real excited.
Take a shot on that. Yeah.
Right. So we're looking for some of these guys to fall into good landing spots, and then all of a sudden maybe you've got the opportunity to get a Tyler Algier in round 3, and he's playing for you, and you're trading him for a 1st-round pick at the deadline, right? That's what you're looking for.
I love it, man. Good breakdown today. Thank you so much, Greg. You are such a film grinder. Greg watches a lot more film than me, if you guys can't tell already. But just thank you so much for bringing your knowledge with us and sharing your time with us like that. So thank you, sir, for giving us perspective on these guys.
Oh, no problem. I absolutely love it.
You got me excited for Nichols. Out of all these guys we talked about today, I mean, who do we like the most? Is it just Brown? He's at the top of the list. But
I think it's Brown and Hull.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not Brown and Vaughn.
Brown and Vaughn. Yep.
Brown and Vaughn are the two that I'm most excited for, and then I think I'm still got generic Prince, an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
An eye on.
Yeah, he's got all the things you look for. It's just
Yeah,
good pop.
absolutely. Lou Nichols might be my third favorite, or my fourth favorite after those
I
guys.
love it. I'm gonna have
Really.
some Lou Nichols. I can already tell you. I
Yeah,
like the name. The name's like an 8 out of 10 for me. Lou
very good.
Nichols just rolls.
Very good. Very good.
Real quick, so we sent out that one trade last week. We were talking about. I love covering the live trades on the show in my Dynasty Ballers Network league here, and this deal ended up happening. I sold Kenneth Walker. I get Derrick Henry, Greg Dulcich, and a 24 first. I wanted Kadarius Toney. We couldn't make that happen. He ended up giving me this little nice guy fourth, fifth round swap up, which is like nothing. But basically, we sold Walker for the package of Dulcich, Henry, and the 24 pick, and I'm down for it. I feel good about it. I like it. I want all of Derrick Henry's almost 2,000 career touches on my team. Give me that.
I mean, I kind of, if I'm a Derrick Henry owner, I'm kind of hoping he gets traded.
Yeah, could be good for him.
Well, yeah, because if he gets traded, it's going to be to a good team that's contending right now and wants to do the thing.
What's interesting is I have Hassan Haskins already taxied, so that's neat.
That's great. That's great.
And whoever they probably take a shot at running back somewhere in this draft, and I'll be looking to pick up that player. So
Yeah, I've had that situation before where uh, I'm a little extra willing to trade for an older back if I already have the young handcuff. So I like that.
yeah, and just in general, and I want to because we're on the topic. One of my philosophies in Dynasty is on all my Dynasty teams, I try to keep one whole backfield lined up all the way down the list, where I have every single running back that team has rostered. And in the years past, it's been like the Niners when it was like Tevin Coleman and dudes. Jeff Wilson, in years past it was the Chiefs when they had, Carlos Hyde and other guys. So like, I think that's a strategy you want to take in Dynasty is try to get a whole running back like room, and then what you'll see is you have security and handcuffs in season, and then if you picked a good one, some of these guys like a Jeff Wilson, they go off and become starters and become standalone assets.
Yes.
So anytime I'm doing a dynasty startup, I try to whoever like that first running back I pick is, I'll try to just all in that backfield and take like that whole running back room. So
I absolutely love that because it allows you to be a little thinner at the position,
yes,
and it's not a
yep.
position you want to be thick at.
Yeah, all of a sudden your RB1 is just whoever the running back for the Ravens is. It was J.K. Dobbins and Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. It was that for me in like 2021 season. But like so your RB1 is just whoever that running back is, and then your RB2 is whatever guy you can throw in that slot, maybe someone off the waiver wire, and then if you're a zero RB type drafter like Greg and I, you just fill out the rest of your roster with the receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, I will also say if I'm going into like a hero RB build, picking a guy who has an obvious cuff, who is going to be like, I already know up front this is going to be all the workload guy, and when he gets that, he's going to be startable. Like that is a tiebreaker for me in who I want at the top.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
we're kind of beyond that now, but for the last 3 years, I would have a guy like Dalvin Cook, like pretty far ahead of a guy like Nick Chubb, where I can't get the handcuff because he costs too much because he has standalone value.
Yeah. Yep. Totally understand that. Yep.
Or a guy like Saquon Barkley, where I don't know who the handcuff is.
That's the scary part. That's where I get weirded out. Is sometimes you don't know. Like I'm not 100% confident Hassan Haskins is the handcuff.
Shouldn't be,
and he probably won't be when the season starts. They're probably going to draft a guy. They might even add a veteran also. So it's weird. But I'll just show you one league I drafted earlier this season. This is a startup from this year. Is I got every Jaguars running back. I took ETN, and then we have I made it a point to get Snoop Connor and Jermichael Hasty all on this roster.
So you don't have the backup.
Oh, who's the backup? Oh, Ernest. Yeah, because they signed him. Yeah, he might be. Yeah, and then that's the annoying part is these things move around.
Well, I'm just while we're at it, just go have a look because that's the new backup. Now.
Yeah, no, and that maybe I'll make a play at this guy. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, what does he cost? Right, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
5th round. I don't know. 4th fab.
Mm-hmm.
Fab. You can fab for him.
That's the perils of drafting this early. That's why I try not to draft before like April if I can avoid it.
I know. I
Uh,
know.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in with us today. I appreciate it. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Let me know who you like the most out of the second half of these running backs coming out. Who are you targeting? Who are you going to spend your fourth, fifth round rookie picks? Who are you making it a point to reserve one of your taxi slots for to carry these guys? Because I'm curious to know. Thank you so much for joining the Multiple First channel today. Look out as we tackle the wide receivers in our next content.